Welcome back to Project 94 for another Diecast review here on the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at another 2023 NASCAR Diecast. And this is going to complete the two-car set of the Tide and Gain cars. This one right here is going to be Justin Haley's 2023 Tide Food City Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 number 31 for Kaulig Racing. Very, very cool to have both Food City Tide and Gain cars. Very awesome. Both of the most popular cars from the Bristol Dirt Race. And this one right here is going to be Justin Haley's Tide machine. Very, very cool diecast that I've been waiting a little while for to finally review it. But here it is. The video is being recorded as we speak. Here it is. The bright orange, yellow, blue, and white Chevrolet Camaro is in the Project 94 studio. How cool is that? We officially have them both, and this one right here is going to go really well with some of the other Tide cars in my collection, and it'll definitely go well with some of your Tide cars in your collection, so stay tuned for the diecast review of this beautiful looking Tide machine. The Tide ride is back. Oh, wow. Let's not open it like that. There we go. Let's get this thing out of the box. Alright guys, here is the diecast out of the box right here, and I gotta adjust my camera a little bit. There we go. Let's get the diecast into the camera, and man, oh man, this car does not disappoint. The bright orange on this car is so vibrant. In real life, it's a bit slightly different orange than it is with the lighting of the camera. It is a bit more on the brighter side, but man, it does look good. This thing really looks amazing out of the box. The Tide number 31 Chevrolet Camaro for Kaulig Racing. Been really looking forward to this diecast review. And if you guys enjoyed the Tide or the Gain car of AJ Allmendinger, you're definitely going to love this one. They both have the bright colors, and that's why they are fun diecasts to review. So over to the front of this car, you got number 31, got Kaulig Racing, you have Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. On the hood, you have Tide with the two hood vents. You have Chevrolet and Haley, of course, the gold Chevrolet banner. You have Sunoco, you have Goodyear in blue on the fender right there. It's a bit messed up looking, as you can see. The Good and Year logos are a bit messed up. But they're blue on the fenders themselves and yellow on the wheels with dark gray rims. You have the NASCAR Cup Series logo, which is hugging the side of the hood right there. It's lovely quality control. You have the number 31, Justin Haley. And let's read some of these contingency sponsors on the B pillar right here. You have Kaulig Racing, Chevrolet, Celsius, FOE, and Kaulig Companies. You have Tide right there, which is pretty cool. And of course, what I really like about these two cars, the Gain and the Tide cars, is that their graphics go all the way onto the side skirts, onto the side markers of the underbody, which is very cool. Some of the teams do this and some of the teams don't. It's mostly the small to mid-tier teams that wrap all the way onto the side markers because the underbody and the side markers are attached. They're one part. It's not on the body itself. What I should say is the side markers are not attached to the body. They are attached to the under tray of the car. So when they wrap over it, it extends it. It makes the side look a bit longer or taller than it usually is. But it actually gives the designers more real estate to add some more of the designs, because the Tide logo would have gotten cut off like right here. But because it wraps all the way down, it looks super good. So you have Tide in that iconic yellow circle. Of course, you got Food City right there. You have Leaf Filter. And, of course, you're going to have on the quarter panel, I wish I could read some of these. You have Workforce, Kaulig Companies, what does that say, Water Solutions, and Leaf Home something. I unfortunately cannot read that. That's how small it is that these decals are on these 164s. Of course, you have the little exhaust port details on top of the side marker. On the back, if one Tide logo was not enough for you, there's three on the back. Of course, Chevrolet, no rear view camera. Oddly enough, you have a green number 31 in the back instead of, wow, in the front, it's also got the green number 31 instead of the blue and white. That's interesting. Interesting design choice. You got Chevrolet, you got ZL1, of course Camaro, super big on the back as usual. Leaf Home on the deck lid. That's probably what that other sponsor was. That must have been the Leaf Home logo. It's just kind of small for me to read. You got Leaf Home, you have Justin Haley, 3 Tide logos on the roof, and the number 31. So now for the paint scheme itself, it's spray painted that beautiful bright orange. Doesn't look to be day glow. It's a really very particular type of bright orange. It's not really, you could kind of say it's like a darkened, like peachy type orange, but it's definitely a bright orange being used for the Tide car. The numbers, you're going to have the white outline, or shadow you can call it, because it's the first outline. Then you have the blue outline and the yellow number fill-in with the Kaulig number 31 font, which is pretty cool. The 31 was a Childress number for a while, and now it's with Kaulig Racing, which is sort of affiliated with RCR. But it's cool to see the 31 back on a diecast. Of course, you have the yellow outline, the yellow shadow, the white outline, and the blue number fill-in for the 31s on the doors of these cars. And what's interesting is that the door number is very small. Look how small and pushed forward that number is. It's not so big. I feel like these numbers were a little bit bigger on the real cars, but for some reason on the diecast, they look super small. And I noticed this mainly with the Kaulig racing cars. I know the Valvoline Byron car had this issue, where the number was kind of too small. But this also has it. Look how small the 31 is on both sides. Maybe if they just click and dragged it and made it a little bit bigger, maybe it would look slightly better, because that number is kind of small, but nothing to get too crazy about. On the front of this thing, you have the black splitter, of course the black roof rails and the black spoiler out back. And starting in the front of this thing, wrapping underneath the lower OEM details, you have 2 little spikes here, and another orange spike here and here. So these tiny little spikes here are orange. They poke out of the splitter right there and stop a little bit past the Sunoco logo. And of course, you probably call them like cat whiskers. So you got the big white whiskers with the blue fill and the white outline just kind of poking out of these of the front grille right there. And of course, it's going to have the orange over it, because all of the front part of it is orange. So this just kind of complements the orange. And of course, it's slanted, as you can see, the little whiskers on the front, with the white outline and the blue stripe, the blue fill-in. And of course, the orange little stripe right there is going to have a yellow background to it. As you can see, the front corners of this car are yellow. Of course, once again, with the weird green outline 31. I don't know what that's doing on this car. But on the sides of it, the little whisker pattern is going to continue right behind the contingency sponsors right here, swooshing underneath the NASCAR Cup Series and the 75th anniversary logo for NASCAR right there. And a bit of the Goodyear is also cut off, the R in Goodyear, because the blues are so similar, except the Goodyear blue is a bit darker than the Tide blue. But nonetheless, you could see that little stripe right there, that white and blue stripe. And then, of course, you got a bit of the yellow right there. That's going to fly towards the corner of the front windshield, or the side passenger windshield right here, towards the front. And then you're going to have a bit of orange right there, so just a bit of a gap. And then you're going to have another chunk of yellow right there, which is rounded off with a little orange gap. You can see it's spaced out between the Tide logo and the little big, thick yellow stripe, which is pretty cool. Leaves a bit of room with the orange, so these two, the sponsor and the decal, aren't clashing into each other. Of course, got a bit of the orange poking through right there. And then underneath this giant yellow stripe, you're going to have the other blue and white whisker that kind of rounds it out right there. Looks pretty sharp and clean. I mean, it is supposed to look clean. We're talking about the Tide sponsorship, the clothing brand, clothing cleaning brand company. Of course, you're going to have behind the Tide logo, you're going to have the white. Got the little blue right there, and it's slanted, so most of the side roof pillar right here is going to be orange, but then you're going to have the white just kind of start over the B pillar right there, so that makes it look clean. You can have the orange and the white and blue kind of clash, which looks super cool. And then, of course, you're going to have the back corners of it all in white. You're going to have a blue spike poking through right there. And towards the little gap right here, you can see the spike right there is a bit of a gap for the blue on the quarter panel of the car. Of course, the Get Biofuel logo right there. You're going to see this part is all blue, the rear quarter part of it, and the back is also blue. But you have a white stripe wrapping from the quarter panels onto the back bumper of this car. And looking onto the decollete, this is all white. And if you look at the side pattern, where all of this is white, the design itself wraps onto the hips of the car. As you can see, the blue spikes right there poking out, which looks super cool. Really cool on top of the hips of the car. It makes it look very sharp. You can still see from the top profile those two little spikes, which is really cool on top of the white right there. And of course on the back, as we looked at it, is just blue with the white stripe on the back. Looking at it from the top, it's just the orange. And that is pretty much the paint scheme. And if you want to count this as part of the paint scheme, the Tide logo is so big that it literally almost touches every corner of the hood. And then a bit of the nose right there, and it gets cut off by the big windshield right there. That's how big this Tide logo is, but that's how you do it. That's how you advertise your sponsor. You put your logo huge on the cars. That's why they wanted more door space, and I think they took big-time advantage of it. It would have been really hard to fit Tide, like, right here, but with the door number moved forward, it gives them more room to add their logo and make it big, and even add more details to the scheme itself, which I'm a big fan of. I love how these cars, both the Tide and Gain, are in collaboration with Food City. That way you can have another cool logo with some more cool colors. The red and blue of the Food City mixing in with the Tide colors. You bet that is going to look good. And it sure does. I'm a big fan of this car, and I'm going to give you guys a 360 view of it while I'm talking about the scheme. Final thoughts about it. I'm really loving this car. It's definitely not on the simple side. This thing definitely has a lot going on with it. And it's a huge step up from the past. Ricky Craven, Darrell Waltrip, the other Tide cars. While those are really, they're almost cult classics, those cars. But this one right here is definitely one of the best Tide paint schemes of all time. It just looks good. Kaulig Racing and these sponsors, Tide and Gain and Food City. Man, who would have thought that would have worked out? But just the way they design their cars, they always have super sharp, angular, and jagged and aggressive-looking stripes. Just a really sharp styling. Even like the number font they have, it's a sharp style. They just have like a super sharp, almost elegant style over at Kaulig Racing. And that style definitely was applied to the design choices of this car, which just make it that much better. And I gotta say, between Legacy Motor Club and these guys, I gotta say, Kaulig Racing had the best. Even though the Petty era Tide cars with Eric Jones, those are pretty good paint schemes, but this one here, oh man, this thing just takes it to a whole nother level for me at least. It just looks good on all sides. The top, the back, the front, the sides. It's just so much going on with it. Just the style of it. Just how sharp it looks. Like, when you think of Tide, you don't necessarily think of super sharp, jagged designs. But this here, it looks good. It just looks like an aggressive, not just a normal Tide car. Not your everyday Darrell Waltrip, Ricky Craven. No, this is like a next generation, like high-level Tide paint scheme right here. This looks good. This is exactly what I would imagine a modern Tide paint scheme to look like. This is just amazing looking. Just all of Kaulig Racing's paint schemes look just fantastic. And with the hex code, or just the colors of Tide blending in with their style, just works really well with this car. And here's the under tray of this one. Just a cool car. And guys, did you see that Mountain Dew car they ran? Oh man, that is a beautiful car. That one looks fantastic. That even looked better than Chase Elliott. So yeah, Kaulig Racing with their paint scheme stylings and the sponsors they're getting, you're definitely gonna end up with some pretty cool designs, and this is definitely one of them. That right there is gonna be it for the Tide. How am I gonna put this? The Justin Haley 2023 Tide Food City Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 for Kaulig Racing. just an excellent looking car. Just the orange, the yellow, the blue, and the white just all look good together. And man, the orange is definitely going to stand out from other cars in your collection. And also, got a bit of a decal fold on top of the 31 just to make things more interesting. But other than that, guys, very, very cool diecast. And that is going to wrap up the review of both the Tide and Gain cars here on Project 94. And stay tuned for next weekend. There's going to hopefully be plenty of diecast to review by then. So thank you all for checking out this diecast review. Comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys in the next diecast review here on the channel. And always remember to make sure you know what you're doing when you're putting decals on your diecasts.